ordering when the real, I mean, it was, Reston is windy and on a good day. And so there were a
Where's
lot
your,
of it.
where was your space in Reston?
I was in the middle of Market Street,
Not on a side street.
not on the side street. No, I always pay for the main drag.
Yeah, it's worth that extra, what, $100?
I don't know. I got in off the wait list once and I was back on that second street over and I did like 3,800 and usually on the main street I'll do 5,000 to 6,000. So it makes a difference. Yeah, at 4 o'clock, they told us to take our workout. And then as I'm coming back from taking the last load, they said, forget it, just take down your tent. Just get out of here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we hear from Sharon McAllister. She's on vacation. And she emailed me that she tried to join the meeting today.
I meant to join last week and I got sucked into Facebook. And I looked up and it's like 5 o'clock.
So many rabbit holes to fall down, so little time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, like you said, where is everybody? Because last week, the last couple of weeks, there were lots of people.
Yeah,
Lots
well, I
of them.
didn't advertise it on Art Fair Insiders today. I don't know if that makes a difference
It might be.
because they get so tired. It's the same post every week.
Every time I go on there lately, it's like all these tents for sale and everything.
What is the new regime doing there? That, I mean, I traded one.
The whole website is all fucked up.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. They changed, Connie retired.
Well, no, but Ning changed the look of their platform and now nothing works the way it used to work.
well, they didn't change the look of the platform. They changed the platform entirely.
Right, right. But nothing works the way it used to work.
It was supposed to be better, not worse, but
Well, no, that doesn't make sense because now entire blogs show up in the blog instead of clicking on to go see it.
mhm. Well, just because it was supposed to make it better doesn't mean it does make it better.
And I never get notifications that people have posted, even though I have notifications turned on.
I haven't
Are you
done it in a long time.
Larry, have you been watching it to see if people are posting?
No, I drop in like once a week. Basically, all I do is make sure people that sign up are legitimate and use first and last names.
Mhm.
You know,
I could understand why they would think there would be a better platform available. It's a shame if the implementation hasn't been good.
yeah, it's too bad they can't take all that content and move it to another platform. I guess, I mean, you could start over again.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff to move.
I mean, I back up their mailing list like every other week or so. I'm sure that they don't.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I have like 15,000 names and email addresses in a database.
Oh,
He's insisting on sitting on my lap for some reason.
So I'm in actually, I'm in two different marketing programs that are rather expensive, and to get my money's worth, I have to invest a lot of time. And I was in a session on Friday in a breakout room with another fellow. He's a man about my age, I would guess. He's English and used to be a lawyer, but he's been teaching people who are leaving the British military how to function in civilian life. And so he's ready to change. So we were talking about the fact that I'm pivoting my business, and he said, I'm more like spiraling my business.
Up or down?
hmm.
I'm not sure that he's sure, which is, I think, why he's in this program with me. So we zoomed yesterday for an hour and hit it off really well. And I had looked at his website and I emailed him and said, knowing that he had been a lawyer, that it looks like a lawyer's website. Said his wife thought it was hilarious.
So I was talking to a photographer yesterday that wants to stop doing shows and be able to sell from his website,
Uh-huh.
but he
Good
doesn't have
luck.
a mailing list.
Hmm.
So,
Well, he's got a problem.
yeah,
I have a mailing list and I did this, I guess I paid somebody to set up my Google ads for me and ran them for I think about 2 months at $20 a day. So I put out a pretty penny and didn't get anything out of it. And I'm just,
When they first started running Google ads, it was entirely pay-per-click. So it had been very hard not to get something out of it, but then they
oh, I got a
decided,
lot of hits on the website. I just didn't get any sales.
oh, okay. But you know, I helped somebody do Google ads a year or two ago, and they were selling impressions as well as clicks. And you can spend an awful lot of money on impressions without getting any value whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah, I got
So-
good traffic. It's just, I don't think that my kind of work is something that people don't buy when they see unless they see it in person.
No,
I mean, I've had a few sales on the website, but usually it's people who have seen me somewhere else.
yeah,
Well, I defer to Frank's judgment on this, but I think a lot of what I've been learning about trying to market yourself at all on the internet is finding your market and defining your customer. And that is not a simple task, I don't think. I mean, all we have to really work from are emails, if we collect them from the public who buys our work. And then when we go through creating like a Facebook ad, trying to find the qualities that would define our customer base, but that's not simple. And
it's hard. It's much harder than it is with diapers, you know.
probably,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because you could have two people. I mean, you could have a pro-Trump person and a pro-Nancy Pelosi person who both like the same art. It's
yeah.
it's not the overlaps are so, I mean, the things that attract people to art are so different from other things in life.
Right, and I think we see it in art shows when we go to do an art show and our buyers just don't show up. Versus a show, and it can be a small show where our buyers do show up and we
Right.
sell well, but that's based on who the show draws to, the audience the show draws to the event with their promotion and advertising, which may or may not be our customer base.
Yeah, I have found that the very rich don't buy my work. So if it's a really hoity-toity like Boca Raton, I did not sell well in Boca Raton.
See that,
Yeah.
how much of that is market? Florida versus Virginia
Well-
versus anywhere else?
Well, I do a lot better in Virginia because there are fewer shows.
Well, but see what's, I hear that a lot from artists over the years, but like when I'm in Chicago, which is one of the markets along with Florida that people say, oh, there's just too many shows. I ask people a lot that come into my booth, what other shows they go to? And most people, the vast majority of them, don't go to any other show than their local community show that they're at right there, with the exception in Chicago, probably of Old Town is one exception. So if they're not going within a 10-mile radius, if they're not going to any of those other multiple shows in Chicago, there's not too many shows.
The feeling I got from Florida was that it was more of a social occasion and people did go to the shows, see their friends. It was a way to go
Right.
out because a lot of people, I saw you at XYZ show and they always want to know when's your next show. So if you go down to Florida for one show, you're toast.
Yeah, but when they say, I mean, Frank, what do you think of this? When they say something like, oh, what's the next show you're going to be at? They're already standing in your booth in front of your artwork. They're
Mhm.
not
Oh,
buying
yeah.
it. What difference does it make what the next show is that you're going to be at? Hang on a second. Go, keep going.
There are no definitive answers to these questions, right?
Yeah,
You-
I mean,
you
I
can-
think that
Nice.
I have done incrementally better each year I go to a particular show. I think
To
that
some
people want to get to know a little bit that you're going to be there, that you're actually, not a fly-by-night person who's never going to show up again.
I think that's to some extent true. To some extent, it's simply a fact that if your work is really different from something anybody's seen before, it might take them a while to warm up to it. That the first
Mhm.
time it's interesting and maybe off-putting, and the second time it's interesting, but the third time maybe it's wonderful. Just because you have, I mean,
Could be,
I've
yes.
had that experience. Thinking back to when I was a teenager and Sly and the Family Stone had this piece of music I thought was utterly weird until I heard it like the fourth or fifth time, and all of a sudden I got it, and it was awesome.
Like Alice Cooper.
I never got
Yeah.
Alice Cooper. He's teasing me because he had an Alice Cooper picture behind him one day, Allison, and I said,
Oh.
I prefer the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
Uh,
I like Dr. Hook.
hmm?
I like Dr. Hook. Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
Yeah, I only liked one of his songs.
Oh, well, Silverstein wrote a lot of them, so that was why I liked them, I guess.
Shel Silverstein wrote one of Johnny Cash's biggest hits.
Yeah, and Bobby
A Boy
Darin,
Named Sue.
yeah,
Ah,
he did a sequel to it too.
I don't think I heard the sequel.
Well, it's on one of
I
the
think I heard it
Bill
once.
Silverstein
Yeah.
albums. I think you could probably find it on YouTube or something. But
What can't you find on YouTube?
Yeah,
Bobby
really.
Darin did a lot of his things too. So, and he's another country star. Marie Laveau was his big hit, and that was, I think, written by Shel Silverstein.
So many good songwriters, so little time.
Thank you very much for looking at the call back. Bye-bye. I will. Bye-bye.
So Ron, you were asking a question when your phone rang, and
Sorry about that.
that's, no, well, that's perfectly,
It wasn't a customer ordering anything, so it's like,
Yeah, I know.
uh, Zoom and my phone seem to have some sort of weird relationship that the spammers like to call when I'm on Zoom.
yeah,
Or maybe
Murphy was an
just annoys me more.
Yeah, the Murphy laws. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But,
I'm
so
thinking
I was saying that, to some extent, it's just there's a randomness to artistic taste, and to some extent, it's a matter of people warming up. That the first time they see something that's really different from what they've seen before, they just may not be able to get their heads around it, and the third time they see it, they might really like it. And so, in your environment, persistence is really important.
Yeah, I think that one of the hard parts is like when we go to put together a series of show in Florida as a case in point for all of us that live in the Midwest. That's a huge expense to go down there and do those shows.
Yeah.
So when they don't produce,
Mm.
oh, will you be back next year? Well, depends. If everybody's
Probably
like you,
not.
they're not going to buy any art. No, I'm not. So
Or next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down to 5 shows that have been consistently good for me, depending on weather, but
Good.
I'm kind of not winding down, pivoting to galleries and exhibitions. And
But
I got
I
the
would-
chance to curate a show for the Louisa Art Center here, a photography show. Boy, there's some bad photography out there.
Yeah.
It's like-
Well, do you find that there's just a lot of people that just copy what other people do? There's the originality is.
No, there was quite a bit. It was from photography clubs in the area. And it's almost like they kind of set themselves, they give them a lesson to do, like, do a shot of water hitting, the water drops. And some of those were quite good. And then do something with digital manipulation. So there was some horrible digital manipulation in there. Just everything was sharp. There was no kind of focus point. It was just like, ah. But
Yes.
I mean, they tried. There was a lot of experimentation in there, and they tried. So I let them in just for concept. I said I was looking for technical excellence or concept excellence or both. So there was a lot of interesting attempts that I let in because I hadn't filled the gallery.
Well, cool. It's kind of a nice gig.
Yeah. So I have to give a gallery talk. I'm still stressing over that. As to how to-
Are any of your pieces in there?
Yeah, they let me, because I'm the curator, I get to put one piece in.
It's kind of hard to choose one piece, isn't it?
Yeah, well, except I'm the featured artist in Crozet near here. And I'm down to like 15 pieces in the van. So it was kind of like, okay, you're the best piece. Things are going all over the place. I've got things going to the McCuffey Art Center and things going to the Louisa Art Center. And it's like, yep, once I see if anything sells at Crozet, I'm going to have to start getting ready for fall.
Allison, do you also do Waynesboro?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And aren't they often the same weekend? Or like a
Oh,
weekend?
no, it's not the Crozet show. It's the
Oh.
Crozet Artisan Depot in Crozet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'm in there in July.
Okay.
I'm getting everything ready. No, I never had any luck at Crozet
At the show. Okay.
at the show.
Just not buyers of photography and not buyers of art, or was it more just your style of work they weren't?
I think it was more, and I'm tempted to try again because they used to be under a big tent. It was more bad luck with the first year I was in one of their little outside buildings and there was three artists across. And then the entrance was on one side and the exit was on the other side. And then there were artists inside. So everybody was coming in, going around and completely missing me. And the second year I was across from the People's Names with Real Flowers with a triple booth. And every child that passed by, they said, "What's your name, honey?" And then, of course, they had to look up their name and their parents were hanging out. I mean, I was like plastered against my wall. And well, that first show, I did sell one picture to the lady who was selling soda across the way because she was staring at it all weekend. It was just. Crozet seems to be more country craft from what I've seen, you know, and my work is, you know, there were some really good artists in there, but depending on, you know, my work is more expensive than a lot of people's there. And
Yeah, I feel like I remember you saying that between the two, that and Waynesboro, you did much better.
Waynesboro
in
is much
Waynesboro.
better, yes.
I did summer fair at Cincinnati weekend before last. Anybody else on the
Oh,
call?
how was it?
The weather was good.
First,
It
where were
was-
you located? On
I was on White Way, which I'm like, gosh, could they change the names? I know their colors, but honest to God, White Way. So, yeah, there are other colors to choose. They didn't run out. Were you there?
No, I've done summer fair a lot of years. As it morphed, your success changed with it. And a lot of artists I know don't go back anymore. There are a few spots that are supposed to be good, but of late, when I've been talking to a few artists that have done summer fair, their booth locations, they're not doing good there anymore. Probably won't go
Yeah.
back.
I did see one artist there that I felt honestly just so badly for her because I had seen her at a show that I was also at in Rockville, Maryland. And she had a horrible booth location there, way at the end of some little side street thing. Like literally, she was on the end of the side street U-turn thing. And I thought, oh, that's such a crappy location for her. Well, sure enough, there she is at summer fair, like right up next to the snack stand. It was the worst place for her.
Yeah.
So mine wasn't terrible, but it was interesting as a 3-day show. It was the first 3-day show I've ever done. And I learned some very important lessons. First of all, I paid to have a booth set up, like so that I didn't have to take the tent. Won't ever do that again. Some folks on this call had said, oh yeah, well, that's a crapshoot. You'll either get a fine tent or it'll be just an awful piece of crap. And it was kind of an awful piece of crap.
So they
So-
give you a
bar,
choice
yeah.
of the type of tent?
No, they didn't even tell me who the tent vendor was. I couldn't contact the tent vendor.
Ouch.
Yeah,
So that
Howard
was
Allen has good tents, and that's the only show I've seen that will rent a good tent to you.
which one is that?
Howard Allen shows.
Oh, okay. All right. So I won't do that again, but also the 3-day show thing. Friday was kind of an average day, not great, but not awful. Saturday was a great day, and Sunday was a total wash. It was awful. And the weather was pretty much the same all 3 days. I understand Friday being different from the weekend. I don't really understand Saturday and Sunday being so markedly different. And it wasn't just for me. There were others whom I spoke with who said, there is not a single person who's here to buy. Everybody's here just walking around looking at stuff with their dog or their kids, because there aren't dogs allowed. But yeah, it was very strange to me how it could be so wildly different one
A lot
Mm-hmm.
weekend
of-
day to the next.
A lot
Did they
of
have a
good.
concert
I know
on
that
Saturday
Reston
night?
is so very much a Sunday show that I just prepare myself for the fact that I'm going to be depressed Sunday morning. And then it always pulls out.
Huh.
See, that seems odd because for a lot of people that come on Saturday to look and then they want to go home and think about what they saw. Sunday, when I first started doing shows for about the first 8 or 10 years, Sundays were always, maybe it was just a 2-dimensional art thing versus functional ceramics or jewelry or whatever. but Sundays were way better, 2, 3, 4 times better than Saturdays.
Mhm.
Wow.
But more your experience, I think, is like I was at St. Charles on the west side of Chicago a couple weeks ago, and they had that same effect. Saturday was great. People were happy. They were doing good. Sunday, it's like there were people there, but it's like you turned off faucet A and turned on faucet B, and there was almost no selling going on for anybody, regardless of what they made.
Yeah,
And that's
that
hard to understand. It really is. You're right.
that's strange.
Who was
So would you
the-
go back? Was it good enough you'd go back?
Um, I don't know. I did the math and, I broke even. I made a little bit. I also, though, I have family in Ohio. So I got a chance to see my sisters and actually spend some time. And so, there were bonuses beyond the show itself. Would I go back? I'd think about it, but it's not, I think I'd rather go back to the state and see family and do a different show, maybe Columbus or something, and check one of those out instead.
Did they have a concert on Saturday night?
They had some music. I never could hear it from where I was.
No,
but,
not during the show.
Maybe. I honestly don't remember, Larry.
Okay. The last time I did it, and it was a long time ago now, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill were performing on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it was a big name, I would have remembered that. If it was
Yeah.
anybody, it wasn't.
And,
it wasn't a big draw.
I talked our way into it.
Oh.
Mhm.
But all the people had to walk through the closed show to get to the entrance to the concert was.
Yeah, I don't think they did that because everybody talked about, how easy and convenient it was to be able to leave everything there because it was secured and patrolled and nobody could get into the park and, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think so.
Was it still on the grounds there where the park is, the Ferris wheel, all that kind of stuff?
They took all that stuff out. So all the rides have
Oh,
been
they did?
removed. Yeah, it's
Mm.
really a very lovely walking area, on the banks of the Ohio there, lovely mature trees. I wasn't under one of them, so I was really hot. But
Did you see the high water marks on the trees?
oh yeah. Having grown up in Ohio, I remember all about those floods.
Can you imagine being set up at that show when that was starting to come up?
Oh.
Oh my God, that would
Incredible.
be nightmarish. Yeah, it's a tough call, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
maybe next year will be a whole lot, because my experience has been shows, if you look back at shows you've done for 3 or 4 years, the numbers bounce around. The problem is when you start a show the first time, are you at the high end, the low end, or somewhere in the middle? And
Right.
that's,
Yes,
I don't know how you
yes.
assess that. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Talk to other artists who have been there before.
But if I talk to a ceramic artist, that what they do has no relevance, I don't think, to what I would do or you would do.
Well, crowd level and buying energy probably affects all artists, depending on depending on price point and things.
One thing I did notice at this show that I haven't had a particularly significant history of at other shows since I started doing it. I've been collecting, here's a sign up to be notified when I open my online store again or do other kinds of interest mailings or whatnot. Lots and lots of interest in that. And I've been contacted by quite a few people since the show closed saying, hey, I didn't buy this. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't make a decision that day. Can you let me know when these things go online? And, of course, it's all one of a kind, so that's gone, but there might be something else that might be of interest. And I didn't have that kind of follow-up after other shows.
Great, congratulations. What's your medium?
Jewelry.
Jewelry, yeah. Congratulations. I hope you get a lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Shipment goes out tomorrow with several, so,
Another thing might be to look at the previous, how many new people are at the show?
Yeah, I don't have any way
If
of
there's a
knowing.
lot of people doing the show for the first time, then maybe the previous year wasn't so good.
Yeah.
Well, right now that'd be sort of hard to tell because some people just have dropped out completely.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they didn't do well, but because they've gone off to something else or they just don't feel like slogging to and from shows.
Well, one thing I've noticed the last couple of years, especially this year, when I first started doing shows 20 some years ago, almost nobody had pop-up tents. Almost everybody was light domes, craft hut, flourish.
Mhm.
Now more and more and more and more, I see the dominant tent type is some form of a pop-up tent. And it's hard for me to perceive those as professional artists. And I don't know, do you guys have any
I
thoughts on-
definitely
God.
see if I look around and see now Arts in the Park is a whole different story because it's so many artists and such a wide range. But there's a lot more pop-up tents there than say, well, Northern Virginia doesn't allow them anymore, even though a couple of them seem to have snuck in.
When I
But,
first started doing shows, everybody had pop-up tents.
That was back in the 80s or something, wasn't it?
There was no light dome, craft hut.
No. But once they came out, didn't you find that most at the
I don't know, because the first couple of years I was doing shows, I was doing mall shows.
Okay, yeah. those
And
were
then
good.
I built my own display that attached to my racks. I used boards across it with tarp over it or corrugated fiberglass for a while.
That's creative, yeah.
I did talk to a few folks about, because I'm in the market for a quality tent, and I talked to a few folks that had light dome or
Flourish.
others. Yeah, and some of them said, yeah, this is all I use, I love it. Others said, yeah, I was really kind of struggling with which one to bring to this show, because they also have a pop-up, and which is easy to just kind of keep in the not maybe in your car all the time, but keep around. Because they said, if it looks like the weather was going to be fine, then I wasn't going to bother with the light dome. I was just going to use the pop-up because it's so much easier to put up and take down. And then somebody else said, I always use the pop-up for one-day shows. That's why I have it. I keep it for that. Doesn't matter. But any one-day show, I'll never bring the light dome out because it's just not worth it. Hassle. So I thought, oh, well, that kind of makes the case for having both anyway.
Well, except that like as you go into summer and it gets really hot, most pop-up tents don't have awnings. And they don't also
Correct.
have vents. And if it were to go bad and rain, they don't shed rain well at all.
Yeah.
And they're harder to anchor. And I think for some art forms, it's not as problematic, but for two-dimensional works of all different kinds that you display on any kind of panel, if your tent isn't going to be solid and your side panels aren't going to be solid, you're in what you hang up in the interior, your panels, your artwork aren't going to do really well.
Sure.
I know I've always wondered how anybody thinks they can sell two-dimensional art when they walk in and the panels and the artwork are swaying back and forth. It's like, whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I saw, I think your tent kind of has to match your price point. I know I was in a show, I was next to this fabulous painter. And she was just starting out and she had a pop-up with blue walls and the 6-foot pro panels and kind of homemade weight things. And she just did not look professional enough, but her pictures were awesome and selling for $2,000 and $3,000 each. And it just didn't, if you're going to sell something for $2,000 or $3,000, you really need to have a big girl tent.
I think that's a good observation. I really do. It makes you look very amateurish, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. To the where people were not going in and looking.
Yeah. Plus, all of us that have done shows for a lot of years, when we see the remains of tents of the show after a bad storm, I would say probably 90+% of the tents that are destroyed are always pop-ups. They're rarely anything else. And so to value what you do, the first layer of valuing it, besides pricing it, is protecting it, I would think.
Yes.
And that's the value of the tent. Plus, part nobody much wants to talk about is if somebody's pop-up tent blows into your tent and you've got a good tent and your artwork gets damaged, who's going to pay for that? And consistently and over the years, I have heard artists that have had that happen. The artists whose tent blew into theirs will not take responsibility for that happening. And that's painful because if you lose original paintings or you lose ceramics or you lose glasswork, that's a loss. That's a serious loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati show required insurance, proof of insurance, and that was the first time I'd been on a show that required that. But gosh, it's cheap. It's $50 or something for the duration of the show, and I almost feel like every show should do that so that you don't run into that exact problem that you described.
Good point. 'Cause,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
not that expensive to
No.
get insurance to protect yourself.
I have the story, I've probably told it here before, and I actually ran into the guy who it happened to. But he was set up on a nice tent, but he had a corner and he had work on the outside wall. And a big wind came through and blew his picture off the wall. And it landed like inches from the $150,000 Tesla that was on display. And that is a reason to have insurance.
No kidding.
We have a question from our Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons of pro panels, I would say. I would
Mhm.
say that I have been injured more by pro panels than anything else because they're light, but they would catch the wind. I actually had one just kind of almost lift me off the ground. But and they take up a lot of room. You know, I wouldn't need a van, probably, well, no, I'd still need a van,
Yeah, it
but I've
depends
often
on-
thought,
Depends on what
switching.
vehicle you drive.
I've often thought of switching to the mesh walls. Although I'm too close to retirement to put that investment in now. But you know, they take up a lot of room. You definitely need a van if you, and the knockdown ones I think take longer to put up, as well as I think the pro panels take longer to put up than the mesh walls.
What
But-
do you think about which one looks more professional? Like when I look at it, the panels
Pro
seem
panels,
more finished. The mesh walls, not as much. I do jewelry.
yes, I think the pro panels look much more.
Yeah,
And if
but
you have pro panels, Velcro is your best friend.
it also depends on the vehicle you drive.
Mhm.
I know, that's another issue too. That's very true, very true. They
I
But
do-
mean-
they do have the knockdown pro panels.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, I downsized from a truck to a van with a box on the roof to a van down to a minivan. And I was able to get everything in the minivan by going to mesh walls.
Yeah, the mesh walls take less time. I've been looking at both and it seems like the pro panels look better. But the mesh walls, how about the wind with the mesh wall? Does it just travel through?
Well, you don't, you keep your walls of your tent down behind the mesh.
Okay,
And it depends what you're displaying too. 2D work on mesh walls. I know a friend who used to always have a corner and she would have to set up the same picture, the same size picture on either side of the mesh wall because you can see right through them.
okay, yeah.
But I think, Morgan, you asked a good question, and I think as to what Larry said, though, if you do have a corner, then that concept of having your sidewall down isn't going to apply to that corner.
Mhm.
And if that's not the direction the wind's coming from, you're fine. If they're coming from the back of your tent or from your neighbor's side. But if you're exposed to that wind, it is going to be problematic. And yeah, buying the panels that break down, I see a lot of artists do that. And I think in my opinion, it looks a lot more professional on a pro panel or whatever who's the other company that makes mesh panels?
Armstrong.
Yeah, they just look,
I did know a guy who bought a bunch of indoor outdoor carpet, kind of the same color as the pro panels. And he had put a piece of wood at the top and a piece of wood at the bottom, and he was able to clamp it to the legs, and it looked just like a pro panel, but rolled up.
cool.
Are the mesh walls cooler maybe? So
Yes, they
better for
probably are
fall,
cooler,
summer?
yes.
You know, it also depends on your work. When I was doing white on white flowers, it looked terrific on the white mesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have light gray pro panels. I have 3 sets in the garage. And I rent them out.
Well, I wish
So
you were
that's-
closer to me then. That was great.
But when you've walked, Barbara, when you've walked through an art show and you've looked at how people display their work and what kind of backgrounds and supports they have for their artwork, So is that kind of where you came up with that idea that, or your idea that the pro panels look probably the best, though they're more problematic to transport, but is that kind of where you came up with?
Oh,
your-
no, I actually, I want to apply, which is my next question. I want to apply to this shore, La Quinta one in Palm Desert area.
Yeah, yeah.
I sent, thank you for the tips. I sent my pictures to the person in charge, and she said, well, pro panels, it's very important. And I said, well, I can get access to pro panels because I had someone I could rent from. And she said that makes all the difference. Pro panels,
Mm.
pro panels.
They're
Yeah.
also a lot sturdier on your tent. Like my pro panels are attached to the tent. And, I always tell people who are helping me break down is always take the sides off before the panels.
But I think Morgan just brought up a great point. Because all that becomes irrelevant if you don't get juried into the show. If
Yes.
the juries
yes.
are looking at pro panels as being a much, much stronger presentation, and you're going to score higher if you use them and lower if you don't, correct or not, relevant or not to how the jurors are supposed to work. If that's a reality, then that really speaks strongly for pro panels, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I've never, from anybody I've ever spoken to, any show promoters, pro panels and mesh walls are treated equally.
Except for Howard Allen.
Yes, especially Howard. No, they don't have a preference.
I always thought they did for pro
No,
panels.
see, that's how the rumors start.
Ah, okay. I'll have to
No,
check out their
I've
website
asked
again.
Howard, and Debbie, and they say, no, not at all.
But if I understood Morgan, she was saying that the director or something was saying that pro panels make a difference to the jury, correct?
She never said mesh panels. She said pro panels.
Pro panels.
Yeah,
And I,
see,
Okay.
had a show and I did a lot of investigating. I found these fabrics. I set it up. It looked pretty nice. I think it looked better than the mesh panels. I took pictures. I thought I'm done. I came home and after the email she sent, I did a mock-up and I rented the pro panels and I took a picture. What a difference. What a difference it made. That
And I
was my,
think, I'm
there's-
not sure, but aren't they pretty equal in price?
no,
well, more
no,
than twice.
the mesh walls are about a quarter of the price of a set of pro
Mm.
panels.
Mhm.
But the other issue is if you're putting hooks into the mesh,
Mhm.
your work isn't going to hang straight. You need to hang in front of the mesh. Flourish sells on their website, it's called strap hangers.
Oh, yeah.
And they go over the bars at the top and they hang in front of the walls. And it makes it look really professional because everything lines up perfectly.
Good suggestion. Yeah.
Yes.
That was nice, yeah. But you think the mesh panels handle the wind better than the pro panels or?
No, I don't.
It's the same
Depends
thing.
what's inside the tent. They may stay standing.
I mean, the pro panels add weight and a little bit of stability based, because everything, like Allison said, everything needs to be connected together.
Yeah, okay.
But if you connect your pro panels to your frame, then it's rock solid. It
Yeah,
really, really is. The wind won't make much of a difference at all. And if it does make a difference, get out of your tent and run.
yeah.
But yeah, it's that concept that Alice is talking about, connecting everything. But when you fasten those panels like up at the top,
Mhm.
if you say, like I have a craft hut and they have these pegs that come up that your PVC pipes that create your roof go over. If you Velcro your corner where the two panels come together to that peg that comes up, it's rock solid. It is really rock solid. And then the end ones fasten to the legs of your tent with Velcro,
Mhm.
and it won't go anywhere. Even if you don't have outside panels and the wind's blowing, your panels aren't going to move. Your artwork won't move.
Thank you, thank you.
But remember, always take your sides down before your pro panels. I had some friends helping me once and they came in, it was really blowing and they came in and took all the pro panels out. And it turned that tent into a kite. It lifted my 40 pounds of weight on each leg right off the ground. I was lucky that some people were around to
Wow.
grab it and pull it down. I
Wow.
learned that lesson.
Thank you. Has anyone done any West Coast California shows?
Long ago, I did La Quinta and Sausalito,
Okay.
and some of the ones in, I used to live in Washington, so did some up in the Northwest and down in Portland. Yeah, La Quinta was great. Sausalito was wonderful.
Talmadge is a pretty big show here.
Which one?
Talmadge, I think it's called. It's north of me, all I know, but they do jewelry there,
I don't know where that is.
3D art.
And I've heard some people talk about the shows in Los Angeles. Some of the ones, there's a show used to be down in Hollywood, I think, and there was some other places that people said were really good and a lot of buyers. Don't know much about those. Stanford or Arizona's got some good shows at the Art Museum, Scottsdale.
Gonna write that down.
And right now, San Diego, I think it's San Diego downtown is having something called Art Walk. And it's like for a whole month or something.
It's only one day. Yeah, I got the info. It's only one day. It's hard to set up for one day.
Well,
Oh,
one day each week.
It's only Sunday each, but
Yeah.
they do. San Diego has good shows. The Little Italy is really good. I've done it. I think it's good.
Katie, aren't art walks local artists opening their studios? They do
Not
in other
here.
places.
Not here.
Okay.
Or, I mean, they may have that as well, but it's downtown, I believe, and it's a series of tents with no front, panel down of any sort, and you just go in between, and they're right next to each other. It's like a whole wall with, a wall in between each person. There's no spacing between them.
Yeah.
At least from the pictures that I saw of it.
So where do you live, Morgan? Do you live on the West Coast?
Orange County. So I'm kind of halfway between San Diego and LA. I did Beverly Hills Art Show a couple years back, and it was not good.
Not good.
Talking to the artist, it seemed like it's changed. So I don't know if I should apply again or. Anybody has done it before? The Beverly Hills Art Show? No.
The only two I'd ever recommend trying would be La Quinta, because there's so many celebrities live out near La Quinta,
That one is.
or in La Quinta, and Sausalito, because they draw people, or they used to anyway, draw people from all over the world it's in Marin County, very wealthy. There was one like a week before, something like that, called Kings Mountain, I think, that was up in the hills.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of people with money. You end up shipping a lot of stuff too, because people don't want to take it with them.
Okay.
But money's not much of an object for people in either La Quinta or Sausalito.
So yeah, La Quinta is really hard to get in, especially as a jewelry artist.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that. Thank you. Thank you for the Sausalito. I'll check that out too.
Well, I live on the East Coast and I never went to the Sausalito show, but I knew people who did it who were very good. Had high quality work.
Yeah, it's a different experience. I mean, different than I've ever experienced at any other show. People would walk in, they would never dicker on price. They just, if they liked it, they would buy it. I ran into original painters that had been at La Quinta, and La Quinta was commission based, but it was also, you couldn't show reproductions. But I believe Sausalito allowed you to do reproductions, but they zeroed out sometimes at La Quinta, and they go to Sausalito and do 15, 20, 25,000. So pretty good. What shows do people have coming up?
Comic-Con.
How
My
many of
next
those do
one-
they hold a year out there?
One,
One. When's that coming up?
mid-July, July 20th, well, the art show part of it will open on the 21st.
And it runs how many days?
It runs through Sunday.
Cool. You all
$35
pumped?
for a space.
How much?
35.
$100?
No, just 35.
45.
Just $35?
And you don't stay there. You just set up and go.
Wow.
It's not
So
gonna-
who sells for you?
What?
Do they have a- Who sells for you? Do they have a master?
There's a
check out?
director, art show director, and usually the assistant director does more of it, but everything goes through the cash register. It's staffed. And they have a security company running the actual cash register, so.
So what are some of the things they sell at Comic-Con?
In the vendor hall or in the art show?
Art show.
Art show, there's originals of all sorts. Last year, for the first time, I saw, what's it called? Repoussé copper. It's a copper sheet and they pounded out the metal from one side and then they engraved it from the other side and they framed those. So those were kind of neat looking.
Wow. What do they sell for? Ballpark.
Prices are all over the place there. I mean,
But originals.
oh, for the originals? Well, the one lady I know, I guess the best, hers they're a silent auction type bidding. And hers start at, I think, about 100. And some of them start at 150 and they go up to 500. And there's people fighting over them. And they have to be original. She cannot make prints of them because she's done them on stone slabs or on feathers, and she makes the frames that go with it.
Sounds pretty talented.
Yeah, she is. She also, her big commercial venture was she was hired to restore an antique merry-go-round.
Oh,
So she had to, clean off the old stuff as well as possible after taking multiple pictures and then recreating that on the, the horses and other animals and the carousel part and everything.
so
So
is
we,
She's in Utah.
is it different kind of work, or like, would you see something like my work there?
Probably not with your subject matter.
Okay.
Digital art or digitally, manipulated photos. One of the cutest things I saw, and he was there several years. I don't know if he'll be back, but he had black and white photos all over San Diego, and in each one there was a Godzilla,
Okay.
or sometimes Godzilla and one of the other monsters, Mothra or whatever. But that was his thing, and people loved it.
so being Comic-Con, does most of the work that's shown there in the art gallery part, is it themed towards the comic?
Comics, cartoons, movies, popular culture in general. There's a fairly large steampunk component still running around. So if you do Victorian with, pet octopuses being walked and that kind of stuff, that's great. A lot of anime and a lot of the young artists that aren't really pro that hoping to do anime manga type work.
Sounds like it would be a fun show to watch.
There's ceramics there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do well there.
There's some painted clothing.
But again, themed towards the comics, anime.
Yeah, well, that's who's
Yeah,
gonna be there to
okay.
buy for the most part.
So if Allison put a Godzilla into some of her pictures, she might stand a chance of.
Well, it wasn't at the show, but somebody else who does show there sometimes, she did Thomas Kincaid style landscape, with the little bridge and all the pink flowers and little cottage in the back and,
Without the
and on
blood.
bridge, there was a troll and there were skulls on the ground around the troll.
Cool.
I didn't notice that right away. You look
Cookie.
at the picture and then you go, oh.
There you go, Allison. The door's open.
Yeah, right.
Well, they do mail-ins too, no glass.
Wow.
Glass or nothing in the frame if you frame it. Most of the
Ah,
work that sells are prints that fit standard size frames, and they bag them. Because people want to be able to switch out pictures in their house. They have closets with, like your art bins with their prints in it. And then when they're tired of whatever they have on the wall, they'll take that print out and they put in another one for a while.
Well, if you have a chance at this next Comic-Con to take some pictures, I'd love to see them on one of these.
No
You can't?
picture. No,
No. Okay.
that's you can take pictures of your own work, but you saw my one picture I had of my
Yeah.
my table set up. But I don't know if I have it on here anymore. But yeah, that's one of the big signs that say no photography. And even if there's some sort of news group or something that's coming through and wants a picture, they have to be able to ask the artist. There's a few years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
that
That's
was-
your work.
That's one of the years when the tables were still 8 feet. They're down to 6 feet now. Let me see if I have my 6-foot table.
so Judy had a question there in the chat about shows being late with results, I think. And
Late with results.
With-
Yeah, she said it was a juror issue, she was told.
well, I could see if the juror got sick or something like that, or. But yeah, it happens all the time from what I've seen.
Yeah, they usually don't blame it on the jurors then.
Well, we had a real late announcement that, you can sign up because they were redoing legal things. Comic-Con is now big business as well as being a nonprofit. But I don't know where my other picture is. There were they had to review every form that we had. And they also made it online signups that you pay online and everything. I don't know where my thing is. There's another one though. Oh, that's the one. That was the one, 1919. But down in the one corner there's a TARDIS hat that sold. There was a TARDIS Kleenex holder that sold. The Yoda hat sold, that's up on the shelf there.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
Good.
It's
So you've been doing Comic-Cons for how long now?
Sort of late 90s, guess like 98 maybe. I was the first time I had anything up. So. But originally it was in the convention center with the rest of the convention. And we got a lot more artistic hopefuls or ones that were already semi-pro. They were selling some stuff, but they wanted more. And that was good because then art, I don't know what you would call them, managers and so on, agents could pop up there, take a look at it, give them an opinion on it when, they fill out their forms or whatever, and, go back and it would, take them 20 minutes. Now it's 20 minutes at least to walk down to the art show and another 20 minutes to hike back to get back to the vendor floor.
From what you say, you set your table up like that, you walk away from it for the duration of the show. Any sales that are done by show staff. And then at the end, you come break down and get paid.
It's usually about 2 weeks to get paid
Mhm.
because all the monies have to go through the central, whatever. It's not the art show doing it. It's Comic Con treasurer that has
Do they
to.
take a percentage out for doing that for you? No. Wow.
It's a nonprofit organization in support of the popular arts. So this is their focus, I guess, in theory.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. They're talking about maybe raising the price next year per table because the room is getting more and more expensive to rent. It's a ballroom in a
50.
hotel, you know, a downtown hotel, the Manchester Grand. So
I see Sharon made it.
Hello.
How was your vacation?
It was awesome. Thank you. I'm trying to deal with the jet lag now.
Where'd you
Oh.
go? Where'd you go?
We were in Europe, various parts of Europe for 7 weeks.
Ooh,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Turkey, Greece, France, and we came home from Iceland. It's quite a collection. It was a whole bunch of canceled trips all dumped into one.
Oh.
Cool.
So I just came by to say hi.
Good to see you.
I don't see, is Bonnie here or is she off for her
Yeah.
surgery?
She didn't make it today. She was here last week and not the week before.
She was looking good and perky last week.
I saw her post that she's having surgery like this week or next week.
Ooh.
Sorry, if she's posted on Facebook that they were getting ready to do corrective surgery.
she made some complaint about her hair was finally growing back, and then yeah.
And now they're
They're gonna shave it again. Oh.
I don't know if they're going to shave it again. It wasn't too clear, but in any case, she wasn't too happy with it.
Wow. Did you all have any discussion before I got here about whether you're going to have another mock jury, Larry?
Well, no, but I thought we were.
Oh, I thought so too. I was just checking in because it's been a while. You were thinking maybe July-ish?
Well, it basically, it's now at your convenience because you want to bring in all the new artists to have their work critiqued.
Mm.
I just want to help promote it. So that's,
Okay.
and if it's news, that's great. And if it's not, that's great. I mean, the questions that keep coming up on the forums are like, okay, let's do this again.
Well,
I learned
I'm ready
so
at a
much.
moment's notice.
I'm
I
sorry.
learned I said I learned so much from it. I tell you, if I showed you a before picture I sent you from my tent and what I have now, big difference because of you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it just seems so helpful, and hope people will continue to come and participate, because I know when I see them in the questions in the forum and people put up their images, sometimes they're awesome and sometimes it's like, oh, with just a little bit of advice or guidance, this could be so much better.
Yeah.
So when do you want to do the next one?
How much notice do you think people need to get enough registration?
Probably a month.
Okay, maybe like the end of July. How about I'll send you a note tomorrow. I can look at my calendar and I'm sort of awake.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
the end
maybe
of
hitting
July.
after that big weekend in July where so many artists are doing all the, the
Right,
Madison.
right. Well, the end of July is good because all the major shows are prior to that.
Right. There's not very much then left that's going into Labor Day, right?
Up
There's
August.
still not big shows, but August has a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Uptown, Port Clinton,
Right.
some of the New England shows, Mystic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of deadlines in September too. So for the winter.
Yeah.
There's like a
Florida.
2-week show in New Hampshire that is the end of July, beginning of August.
We can look at some dates and
Well, no,
But-
I mean, the end of July is fine. And if you want, I can start promoting it, but do you want to limit how many people?
Well, don't you think? Because last time we had 57 or something like that.
I think 55,
And that took us pushing
We-
3 hours
3.5 hours.
and a half. Yeah. So it seems like 50-ish is the max just to be able to get through them. And then if it came out that there was more demand, we consider whether we do a second one, you
Well, why
know?
don't, I mean, we could plan to do it 2 days in a row and limit it to 30.
Yeah, something like that. So that otherwise it's tiring on the jurors, the input people too, and listening. And although it was great. So it was great.
What if
Also-
we categorized between 2D and 3D? So for us listening in, it's
Oh,
very
there you go.
relevant.
That's interesting.
Is that something we want to do?
Food for thought.
Well, would it make a difference on artists participating if they knew that, say, all of the work that was going to be juried on a given day was, say, 3D work, and their work was 3D, that they would find that more beneficial?
I would think so.
Because if it goes beyond if the experience goes beyond the jurying of their own work, but to see how other people's work is also juried and comments made about it, would that be helpful to them? In which case,
Well, but it would, but they would still have access to both days on YouTube.
If they wanted to go see the other, they could see it but I don't know, maybe it would be interesting to try it with a divided 2D and 3D, just because the display techniques are different. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that.
And they're more of a consistency in displays, you mean?
Mhm.
Also, I would think you could have somebody who is familiar with, a specific 3D type, like a ceramics, rather than just have all painters doing the judging.
You could do that. I think an interesting thing for that, though, is to, however you word this, to stay off of the, because since they're not jurying it to accept it to a show,
They
their
would be able to give you more.
presentation, it's not as critical to have somebody experienced in jewelry or ceramic or glass or whatever, because they're not judging the work. We're only talking about the presentation.
Well, even so, if they're experienced in jewelry, they know, hey, don't hang it on a nail on the backboard, but
Yeah.
this type display you should be getting.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
think,
I think that would work, separating 2D and 3D and have them on adjacent days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then have 2D and 3D jurors.
Mhm.
I think for me, I was like number 50 out of 56 or something. It was, and there was, when I learned some, but I think if it was 30 and then mostly 3D, I think it would have been easier for me to listen in,
Mhm.
to really focus on each conversation that was, there.
well, then the mock juries, are we able to ask questions, the people watching, or is it strictly
Yep.
this YouTube you say, or are you just watching?
No, you can't, there's no time to ask questions.
Okay.
Without questions, it took 3.5 hours.
Didn't we let them, they could put it in the chat though? Wasn't there some running in the chat? Or not? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
No,
Functionally, you're saying it's just not particularly functional to have time diverted to asking questions, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then, but the following week at the meeting, the jurors were there and they answered questions.
Right.
So that's a good way to do it, 2D and 3D. So Sharon, we'll talk tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna go to the office tomorrow, so I'll send you a note about a time to do that. I can look at my calendar and I'm first doing the important things like getting my hair cut and my nails done. So
Priorities. Yeah.
that's right. You gotta keep the priorities right.
Yeah.
Well, I got to take off. Larry, thanks again for holding the meeting, and all you guys. Kaylee, Frank, everybody, adios until what, next week, right?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, ciao.
Thank
See
you
y'all
so
next
much.
week.
I'm gonna have to leave
All
out.
right.
Very helpful.
Bye-bye.
Hey, cool.
Thank you. Bye.
All
Bye.
right. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Bye.